You begin here, not with effort, but with release. Your body settles, your thoughts loosen, and awareness floats gently to the surface of itself. There is no edge to find, no task to complete. Only a wide, quiet presence, like drifting on your back beneath an endless night sky. The darkness around you is soft, not empty. It hums faintly, like a distant engine that never rushes and never stops. Above you, starlight glows with a patient steadiness, small points of warmth scattered across a cool, deep canvas. You feel weightless here, held without hands, supported without pressure. Your breath slows on its own. In. Out. Each breath feels like a gentle tide, lifting and lowering you by the smallest amount. Nothing dramatic. Nothing urgent. This is where the universe likes to meet you. Not in fireworks or collisions, but in quiet continuity. In the long pauses between moments, you notice that space does not feel rigid or still. It feels relaxed, as if it has room to stretch. For a long time, humans imagined the universe as a fixed stage, a dark backdrop where stars perform their slow dances. But as you float here, you sense something subtler. The stage itself is breathing. Not quickly. Not loudly. Just enough to notice if you are listening. Space is not rushing away from you. It is gently widening, like a calm sea at night when the tide begins to rise so slowly that only your ankles can tell. The cosmic tide does not splash. It does not announce itself. It simply arrives. You let this idea settle without grabbing it. Expansion is not an explosion. It is not things flying apart in panic. It is space itself becoming a little more spacious. Like a room that grows while you rest inside it. If that feels strange, that is allowed. The universe does not mind confusion. It has been patient for a very long time. You imagine galaxies resting like lanterns on the surface of this vast ocean. They do not swim away from each other. The water between them simply deepens. The tide rises everywhere at once. You smile softly at the thought. It is oddly polite, this universe. It expands without bumping into anything too hard. It stretches without waking anyone up. If the universe had a personality, it might apologize for taking up more room. Just a little. Hope that is okay. You remain suspended, breathing, listening. There is a sense of motion without movement, change without disturbance. This is not chaos. This is rhythm. Nothing is breaking. Nothing is wrong. Expansion does not mean loss here. It does not mean things are being taken away from you. It simply means there is more room than there was before. Your breath mirrors this. Each inhale creates space. Each exhale softens it. In. Out. You notice warmth now, subtle and steady, as if the stars are not just distant lights but quiet companions. They do not speak. They keep watch. The silence between them is not empty. It carries a low, almost musical hum, the sound of existence continuing without needing attention. You let your shoulders drop. The universe is not in a hurry. Neither are you. For a long time, expansion goes unnoticed because it does not demand to be seen. It does not pull at your skin or tug at your thoughts. It happens beneath perception, like hair growing, like shadows shifting across a floor. You feel safe knowing this. If the universe can change so gently, perhaps change itself is not something to fear. The cosmic tide keeps rising, imperceptibly, patiently. You float with it, perfectly balanced, neither sinking nor swimming. There is no need to hold on. The water knows where you are. Somewhere in this quiet, a question forms, not sharply, but like a ripple spreading across stillness. If space is expanding, if the tide keeps lifting everything so softly, what is doing the lifting? You do not chase the question. You let it drift beside you, like a small boat tied loosely to your awareness. For now, it is enough to float. Enough to breathe. Inhale slowly, as if the water supports your chest. Exhale fully, letting the cosmic tide carry you onward. The stars remain calm. The darkness remains kind. And somewhere ahead, barely felt, space itself prepares to breathe a little deeper. You drift onward from the quiet stillness, carried by the same calm that held you before. Nothing jolts you awake. Nothing changes suddenly. The darkness remains soft, but now it feels slightly closer, like a room you have grown familiar with. Your breath continues its slow rhythm, steady and unbothered. In. Out. As you float, a subtle realization settles in beside you. Space is not just where things happen. Space is doing something too. It is breathing. Not with lungs, not with sound, but with a slow, patient opening and easing. A gentle expansion that feels less like movement and more like permission. You imagine space the way you imagine your own chest. Quiet at rest. Expanding when needed. This breathing is not dramatic. It does not rush for air. It does not gasp or strain. It simply allows itself to become slightly more than it was before. For a moment, you wonder if you are imagining it. That is okay. The universe does not mind imagination. It often begins there. Galaxies are still resting in their places, glowing softly like embers suspended in a dark hearth. They are not running away from each other. They are not being chased. The space between them is stretching, the way dough rises when left alone on a warm counter. Slowly. Quietly. No one needs to watch it happen for it to work. You feel the cosmic tide again, but clearer now. It is not a wave that crashes. It is a tide that lifts everything equally, without preference or urgency. You sense how gentle this is. If the universe expanded loudly, sleep would be impossible. Fortunately, the universe seems very considerate. You breathe, and space breathes with you. Inhale, and you feel openness bloom inside your ribs. Exhale, and that openness softens, but does not disappear. Space behaves the same way. It stretches. It rests. This is not emptiness becoming crowded. It is room becoming roomier. You notice how comforting this idea feels. Nothing is being taken from you. Nothing is being pulled away. Distance here is natural, like the space between notes in a song. Without it, there would be no music at all. The cosmic tide moves without intention. It does not want anything. It does not plan ahead. It simply continues, because that is what space does. If space could speak, it might say, "I'm just making myself comfortable." And then apologize again. You smile at that, softly, barely. Even the universe deserves a good stretch now and then. As you float, the glow around you grows warmer, more familiar. The darkness feels less like absence and more like a blanket. Heavy enough to comfort. Light enough to breathe through. You feel connected, not because everything is close, but because everything shares the same quiet expansion, the same breath. You are not being left behind. You are participating. Every atom in you rests calmly while space does its slow work around it. Nothing inside you is stretching uncomfortably. Nothing inside you is asked to change. The universe expands, and you remain intact. This is important. It means you are safe to rest. The tide does not tug at your thoughts. It does not pull memories loose. It does not disturb sleep. It passes beneath everything, unnoticed unless you choose to notice. You choose to notice, gently. Inhale slowly, feeling the space inside your chest widen just a little. Exhale, letting it remain open, relaxed. This breathing has been happening for a very long time. So long that it once felt almost still. So long that no one noticed at first. That thought drifts by like a passing cloud. You do not hold on to it. You let it go. For now, it is enough to feel how calm expansion can be. How growth does not always mean strain. How distance does not always mean loss. The cosmic tide continues, patient and even. You float with it, eyes heavy, thoughts soft. Space breathes. You breathe. And somewhere ahead, barely sensed, this breathing begins to change its rhythm, just slightly, preparing for a deeper motion that has not yet been named. You continue drifting, carried forward by the same calm that has held you all along. Nothing pulls you faster. Nothing startles you awake. The darkness remains smooth and steady, and your breath stays slow, as if it has learned this rhythm by heart. In. Out. At first, everything feels the same as before. The cosmic tide lifts you gently, evenly, without effort. Space breathes. You breathe. But then, almost imperceptibly, you notice a difference. It is not a jolt. It is not a surge. It is more like realizing the water has risen higher on your legs than you expected. The tide is still calm. Still quiet. Yet it is no longer content to remain exactly as it was. The universe, it seems, has begun to lean into its own expansion. You rest with that thought, letting it float beside you. Nothing about this feels alarming. It feels curious. For a long time, space stretched at a steady, unhurried pace. So steady that it almost felt like stillness. So gentle that it blended into the background of existence. Then, somewhere far beyond your sight, something shifted in the way the tide moved. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. Just enough that careful listeners began to notice. You imagine astronomers not as alarmists, but as night watch keepers, quietly noticing that distant lights behave a little differently than expected. A soft surprise. A raised eyebrow. A thoughtful pause. The stars themselves do not panic. They continue glowing. They continue existing. It is the space between them that tells the story. The cosmic tide, once content to rise slowly, now deepens with a little more confidence. Like an ocean that has found its rhythm and decides to follow it more fully. You feel this change as a slightly stronger lift beneath you. Still gentle. Still supportive. Acceleration does not feel like being thrown forward. It feels like being carried more assuredly. This is important. Faster does not mean violent. Quicker does not mean worse. Sometimes it simply means clearer. The universe is not losing control. It is not unraveling. It is discovering that its own expansion has momentum. You imagine moonlit waves rolling in, one after another, each swell rising just a bit higher than the last. No crashing. No urgency. Just persistence. You smile faintly, because the universe seems to have found something it enjoys doing. Expanding. Quietly. Consistently. If the universe had a diary, this might be the moment it writes, "Oh, this feels natural." You float with the deepening tide, completely unbothered. Your body remains relaxed. Your thoughts remain soft. Nothing inside you speeds up. Your heart does not race. Your breath does not shorten. The change is happening on a scale so vast, so patient, that it leaves your rest untouched. This is another reassurance. Even when the universe changes its rhythm, it does so gently enough to preserve sleep. You let the idea of acceleration settle without tension. It is simply the tide discovering it can move a little more freely than before. Space continues to stretch. But now, it stretches with a slightly longer reach. The darkness around you feels deeper, like water that grows darker as it grows deeper, not because it is dangerous, but because it is wide. You feel rocked by this deeper motion. Back and forth. Back and forth. The universe hums softly, a low sound you feel more than hear. It is the sound of change without disturbance. You breathe in curiosity. You breathe out any tightness you did not realize you were holding. In. Out. This acceleration is not a countdown. It is not leading toward an edge. It is simply a continuation, shaped differently. You do not need to understand it fully. You only need to feel how calm it remains. The cosmic tide lifts galaxies, light, and silence alike. It does not discriminate. It does not hurry. You remain safely afloat, carried without effort. Somewhere in this deeper motion, a question begins to form. Not sharp. Not demanding. Just curious. If the tide is deepening, if the expansion is gaining confidence, what unseen current could be guiding it? You let the question drift ahead of you, like a lantern floating on dark water. You do not chase it yet. For now, you rest in the gentle certainty that even change can be kind. Even acceleration can feel like being held. The tide continues, steady and deep. Your breath stays slow. And somewhere beyond the darkness, the universe prepares to give this quiet force a name, one that sounds mysterious, but carries no threat, only invitation. You drift forward from the deepening tide, still buoyed, still untroubled. The question you released earlier floats nearby, unhurried, glowing faintly like a lantern that knows it will not be lost. The universe remains dark, but it is the good kind of dark. The kind that lets your eyes rest. Your breath stays slow and even. In. Out. This is where a name appears. Not suddenly. Not loudly. It arrives the way names often do when something resists description. Carefully. Provisionally. Dark energy. You let the words settle without reacting to them. They do not bite. They do not shout. Here, dark does not mean dangerous. It does not mean hidden with intention. It simply means unseen. Like the dark of a room before your eyes adjust. Like the dark beneath calm water where nothing is wrong, only unfamiliar. Scientists are careful with names. When they do not yet know what something is, they choose a word that admits uncertainty. A label that says, "This is here," even if we do not yet understand it. Dark energy is such a word. A soft placeholder. A gentle bookmark tucked into the universe. You float with that thought, feeling how little pressure it carries. Nothing about this name asks you to be afraid. It only asks you to be patient. The cosmic tide continues beneath you, steady and deep, and now you have a word you can rest beside it. Not an explanation. Just a sound that points. Dark energy is not a thing you can hold. It is not a substance sloshing through space. At least, not in any way you would recognize. It is a way of noticing that the tide behaves differently than expected. You imagine scientists standing quietly at the edge of the cosmic ocean, shoes off, water lapping gently around their feet. They do not see the tide itself. They see what the water does. And when the water behaves in a way that surprises them, they give the surprise a name. Dark energy is the name of that surprise. You feel reassured by this. There is humility in it. A willingness to say, "We are still listening." The darkness around you feels warm now, tinted with deep blues and soft shadows. You imagine floating on your back in calm water, stars overhead, the surface smooth and forgiving. Nothing beneath you pulls. Nothing drags. The unknown is not a trapdoor here. It is a wide space where questions are allowed to rest. If dark energy had a voice, it would probably whisper, "I'm not finished explaining myself yet." Then pause politely. You smile again, faintly. Even mysteries seem well-mannered in this universe. Your breath remains slow, sinking easily with the tide. In. Out. The cosmic tide does not change its rhythm just because it has been named. It does not react. It does not mind. Names are for you. For understanding. For comfort. You feel how safe it is to not know everything at once. How restful it can be to let questions exist without answers pressing down on them. The universe has always been larger than explanations. And yet, it keeps offering clues gently, like breadcrumbs placed far apart so no one has to hurry. Dark energy is one of those breadcrumbs. You float beside the name without gripping it. It does not explain the tide. It only acknowledges it. And that is enough for now. The water around you feels warm and steady, the darkness soft as velvet. Your thoughts slow further, sinking into a comfortable quiet. You sense that dark energy might not be something added to the universe. It might be something the universe is already doing. That idea drifts through you like a slow current. Unresolved. Unthreatening. You are not required to solve it. You are allowed to rest with it. Inhale slowly through your nose, like drawing in cool night air above the water. Exhale gently, like a wave retreating from shore. The name remains. The mystery remains. And as you float onward, the cosmic tide continues its patient rise, inviting you to look more closely, not at what fills space, but at space itself, quietly wondering whether the energy lies within it, or whether it is space, softly, endlessly, stretching on its own. You float onward, still cradled by the slow, dependable tide. Nothing changes abruptly. Nothing asks for effort. The darkness around you feels wider now, like open water stretching far beyond the edge of sight. It is not lonely. It is spacious. Your breath remains slow and familiar. In. Out. As you rest here, another gentle idea drifts into awareness. The space you float in is not nothing. It never was. For a long time, emptiness sounded like absence, like a lack of content, like silence without meaning. But as you float inside it, emptiness begins to feel more like a pause than a void. A held breath. A quiet readiness. The cosmic tide continues to lift everything evenly, and you begin to sense that the tide does not come from stars or galaxies alone. It comes from the space between them. This feels surprising, but not uncomfortable. Like discovering that the quiet part of a song is what gives the melody its shape. Space itself seems to have a softness, a kind of gentle tension, like fabric stretched loosely between distant points of light. Not pulled tight. Not slack. Just present. You imagine a wide, dark ocean where the water presses lightly against your skin, not pushing, not pulling, simply reminding you that it is there. That is how space feels now. It presses without pressure. You realize that even stillness can have weight. Even silence can carry something. This idea settles slowly, like silk drifting downward through calm water. No rush. No disturbance. The cosmic tide feels different when you imagine it this way. Not as something arriving from afar, but as something arising everywhere at once. The water is not flowing in from the edges. It is rising from within itself. You feel held by this thought. If space itself carries energy, then you are never truly surrounded by nothing. There is always presence. Your breath echoes this realization. Inhaling does not pull air from somewhere far away. It invites it in. Exhaling does not send it rushing off. It releases it gently. Space behaves the same way. It holds. It allows. The idea of empty space having energy does not feel heavy or complicated here. It feels intuitive, like warmth lingering in a room after a fire has gone out. Nothing is happening loudly. Nothing announces itself. And yet, the cosmic tide continues its steady rise. You sense how this quiet pressure could encourage space to stretch, the way a pillow slowly regains its shape after being pressed. No force. Just patience. You imagine space leaning outward, not because it is told to, but because it naturally does so. If space had a preference, it might prefer room. And the universe seems polite enough to let it have some. You smile at that thought. Even the emptiest things deserve comfort. The darkness around you feels velvety, like night air against warm skin. The distant stars glow steadily, unchanged, unbothered by the stretching happening between them. Nothing pulls them apart violently. They simply find more room around themselves. You remain untouched by all of this. Your body does not stretch. Your thoughts do not scatter. The cosmic tide flows beneath everything, beneath even your awareness, subtle and consistent. This is another reassurance. Even powerful ideas can be gentle. You breathe in the silence. It feels full, not hollow. Inhale. Exhale. The idea that emptiness holds energy begins to feel comforting. It suggests that absence is never truly empty. That rest itself contains something sustaining. You think briefly of moments in your own life when nothing seemed to be happening, and yet something was quietly changing. Growth hiding inside stillness. The universe seems to understand this well. The cosmic tide does not need objects to push against. It arises from the quiet pressure of space itself, evenly, everywhere. This does not make space crowded. It makes it alive in a very calm way. You feel safe resting in this kind of aliveness. It does not demand attention. It does not interrupt sleep. If anything, it supports it. Your body grows heavier now, pleasantly so, as if sinking a little deeper into a warm surface. The darkness hums softly, almost like a lullaby played too quietly to identify. The tide continues. The space continues. You let go of the need to picture it clearly. This is not a place for sharp images. It is a place for impressions. A sense of quiet pressure. A sense of gentle encouragement. Even emptiness holds presence. Even stillness has weight. The idea wraps around you like a blanket, warm and reassuring. You are not floating in nothing. You are floating in something patient and steady. Breathe in the silence. Breathe out the need to fill it. The cosmic tide remains constant beneath you, neither strengthening nor weakening, simply being what it is. And as you drift onward, a new question begins to form, not with urgency, but with curiosity. If space itself carries this quiet energy, will it always hold it? The question drifts ahead of you, slow and unresolved, like a ripple fading across calm water, gently leading you toward the next thought, the next breath, the next stretch of endless, patient night. You drift gently onward, still carried by the same patient motion beneath you. Nothing new presses in. Nothing disappears. The darkness remains wide and welcoming, like an ocean that has no interest in ending. Your body feels heavier now, in a pleasant way, as if the tide has learned exactly how to hold you. Your breath stays slow. In. Out. As you float, another idea settles quietly beside you. What if the cosmic tide does not grow tired? What if, as space stretches and widens, the energy within it does not thin or fade, but remains steady, like water rising evenly across an endless shore? This thought arrives without drama. It does not insist. It simply waits to be noticed. You imagine standing at the edge of a vast, dark sea at night. The tide comes in, not as a single wave, but as a slow, universal lift. Everywhere, at once. No matter how far you walk along the shore, the water rises just the same. This is how the universe may be behaving. As space grows, the quiet energy within it does not dilute. It does not weaken. It remains. The cosmic tide does not struggle to keep up with expansion. It is not chasing after space as it grows. It is already there. This feels deeply calming. There is something reassuring about a force that does not hurry and does not exhaust itself. The universe is not pushing harder to expand. It is simply continuing. You feel this continuity in your own breath. Each inhale does not become weaker because you have breathed before. Each exhale does not lose meaning because it repeats. Breath remains breath. Space remains space. The tide remains the tide. You let that repetition settle, soothing and rhythmic. Consistency here is not boring. It is dependable. The cosmic tide feels like a promise the universe keeps without effort. If space were water, it would not splash or churn. It would rise evenly, patiently, touching everything with the same gentle insistence. You feel no pulling sensation. No strain at the edges of awareness. Nothing is being stretched thin. Nothing is being asked to give more than it has. The idea of a constant tide brings a subtle warmth to your chest. It suggests that even as the universe changes, something within it remains reliable. This is not a frantic acceleration. It is not a runaway motion. It is steadiness revealing itself over time. You imagine the horizon stretching endlessly in all directions, the water beneath it lifting at the same quiet rate, hour after hour, without fatigue. The universe does not sigh with effort. It does not complain. If it could speak, it might say, "I can do this for a long time." Then pause. Then add, "And I don't mind." You smile softly at that. The universe seems very patient with itself. Your body relaxes further, trusting this patience. There is no countdown here. No ticking clock. The cosmic tide does not rush toward a finish line. It does not need one. You feel how safe it is to imagine change without urgency. Growth without struggle. The darkness around you feels smooth and continuous, like silk drawn slowly through your fingers. The stars remain distant and calm, unaffected by the steady rise of space between them. They do not flicker in alarm. They simply glow. This is another quiet reassurance. Even with a constant tide, the universe does not fall apart. It holds together gently, each piece resting within the same expanding fabric. You breathe in steadily. You breathe out just as slowly. In. Out. The tide continues, neither accelerating wildly nor slowing to a stop. It simply persists. There is comfort in that persistence. In knowing that not everything is fragile. The universe does not seem worried about running out of energy. It behaves as though it has exactly what it needs. This thought invites you to soften further. To release the idea that everything must always be conserved tightly, rationed carefully. Some things can be steady without being scarce. The cosmic tide lifts galaxies, silence, and darkness alike, evenly and impartially. It does not favor one place over another. You feel included in this fairness. Even here, resting in thought, you are part of the same calm continuity. Nothing about you is being drained. Nothing about you is being thinned. You remain whole. The idea of a tide that never tires feels like a lullaby hummed by the universe itself. Low. Endless. You let your thoughts drift with it, unanchored and unafraid. Slow inhale, steady and even. Slow exhale, just as long. The horizon remains distant. The motion remains gentle. And as you float deeper into this steady rhythm, another quiet curiosity begins to form, like a shape just beneath the water's surface. If the tide never stops rising, where does it carry the shore? The question does not demand an answer yet. It simply drifts ahead of you, buoyant and calm, guiding you forward into the next stretch of night, the next breath, the next soft unfolding of an endless, patient universe. You continue floating, still held by the same steady tide, still unhurried. The question from before drifts beside you, calm and curious, no longer sharp at its edges. The darkness around you feels deeper now, not heavier, just more spacious. Your breath remains slow and familiar. In. Out. As the cosmic tide continues its patient rise, you begin to notice its long, gentle consequence. Not right away. Not all at once. Galaxies begin to drift. Not because they are pushed. Not because they flee. They drift because the space between them quietly grows. You imagine them as small boats on a vast, dark sea, lanterns glowing softly at their centers. The water between them widens, almost apologetically, creating more room with every passing moment. No ropes snap. No anchors drag. The boats simply find themselves farther apart than before. This drifting feels calm, almost respectful. The cosmic tide does not tear connections away. It loosens them slowly, giving everything time to adjust. You feel no sadness in this image. Only acceptance. Distance here is not abandonment. It is space being generous. Light from faraway galaxies takes longer to reach its destinations, stretching gently as it travels. It does not complain. It adapts. The universe seems very good at adapting. You rest with the idea that silence can grow without becoming lonely. That quiet can deepen without becoming empty. As galaxies drift farther apart, the spaces between them grow darker, not because something is lost, but because there is simply more room. More night. More pause. The cosmic tide carries this darkness evenly, like a blanket drawn wider across an endless bed. You imagine future skies where fewer distant lights remain visible, not because they are gone, but because they are farther than sight can easily reach. This does not feel tragic. It feels serene. The universe does not seem distressed by its own widening silence. It settles into it. You feel comforted by that. If the universe can accept quiet, perhaps you can too. Your body remains unchanged by this vast drifting. Your breath stays warm. Your heartbeat stays steady. Nothing pulls at you. Nothing asks you to follow the galaxies into their distance. You are allowed to remain exactly where you are. The cosmic tide does not demand participation. It carries everything whether it is noticed or not. You imagine the drifting continuing, slowly, patiently, over stretches of time so long they feel more like moods than moments. Galaxies glow. Then glow more faintly. Not because they are fading, but because the space between observer and light has grown kind and wide. The universe does not mourn this widening. It seems content to let things rest where they drift. Silence grows. Not abruptly. Gracefully. You feel how this growing silence could be mistaken for emptiness, but you know better now. Silence holds presence. It holds memory. It holds potential. You let your awareness sink into the quiet between thoughts, mirroring the quiet between galaxies. Nothing feels missing. The cosmic tide continues beneath everything, impartial and steady. It does not speed up out of excitement. It does not slow down out of hesitation. It simply lifts. You smile faintly at the thought that even separation in the universe happens politely. No shoving. No raised voices. Just space making room for itself. Your breath deepens naturally. Inhale, feeling connected anyway. Exhale, releasing any urge to hold on. Connection here does not depend on closeness. It depends on shared motion. Everything floats on the same tide. You imagine galaxies far apart still participating in the same expansion, still sharing the same underlying rhythm. Distance does not remove them from the story. They are simply in different verses now. The darkness around you feels calm and vast, like open water under a cloudless sky. You feel small, but not insignificant. Small things float too. The cosmic tide does not distinguish between large and small, near and far. It treats all space equally. This fairness feels soothing. You are not singled out. You are included. As the drifting continues, you sense that this is not necessarily an ending. It is a phase. A movement. The universe has changed its rhythm before. It may do so again. For now, it drifts. You breathe easily within this idea, letting it cradle you. In. Out. The silence grows, but it is a friendly silence, one that invites rest rather than concern. And as you float onward, carried by the same gentle tide, another question begins to form, soft and unhurried. Is this drifting the universe's final rhythm? Or just one slow movement in a much longer, quieter song? You continue onward, still floating, still untroubled, as the universe stretches into a softer state. The drifting from before does not stop, but it changes its feeling, becoming quieter, more settled. The cosmic tide remains beneath you, steady as ever, though now it feels less like movement and more like rest and motion. Your breath remains slow. In. Out. The darkness around you warms slightly, like the sky just after sunset when the light fades without hurry. This is the long evening of the cosmos, a time not marked by clocks, but by mood. Nothing collapses here. Nothing snaps or shuts down. The universe does not fall asleep suddenly. It grows drowsy. Stars continue to glow, but their light feels softer now, as if filtered through layers of deepening night. The cosmic tide still lifts space evenly, but the universe seems content to stretch and cool at the same time. This cooling does not feel like loss. It feels like letting go of excess warmth, the way a room releases heat after a long day. You imagine the universe exhaling slowly, relieved, finally able to rest into its own vastness. The darkness thickens, not oppressively, but comfortably, like a blanket pulled higher as the air grows cool. Silence deepens, but it remains full, humming faintly beneath perception. The cosmic tide continues, not hurried, not ambitious. It no longer feels like it is going anywhere. It simply is. This is what rest looks like on a universal scale. You float within it, untouched, your body still warm, your breath still rhythmic. Nothing in this vast cooling asks anything of you. The universe does not demand attention as it settles. It does not announce milestones. It eases into stillness gradually, the way twilight becomes night without anyone noticing the exact moment it happens. You feel soothed by this idea. Endings here are not sharp. They are slow fades. The cosmic tide does not reverse. It does not rush toward silence. It carries the universe into a quieter state, like water smoothing its own surface after wind passes. You imagine vast stretches of space growing darker, cooler, calmer, with fewer bright interruptions. Not empty. Just peaceful. The universe seems comfortable with less activity. It does not resist slowing down. If anything, it seems to welcome it. You feel permission in this. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to be still without explanation. The long evening of the cosmos suggests that rest is not failure. It is fulfillment. Your breath mirrors this perfectly. Each inhale is gentle. Each exhale lingers. In. Out. The cosmic tide continues its even rise, but the universe now feels like it is settling into the motion rather than being surprised by it. This is not an ending chapter written in bold letters. It is a soft paragraph written in fading light. You imagine stars burning quietly, without urgency, content to glow while they can. They do not struggle against the coming quiet. They simply exist within it. The darkness holds them kindly. You feel no fear in this vision, only calm acceptance. The universe does not grieve its own cooling. It seems to understand that every rhythm includes a quieter verse. The cosmic tide supports this understanding, lifting space gently even as energy disperses into calm. You feel rocked slowly, as if floating on warm water under a night sky that no longer needs to impress anyone. The silence grows thicker, but it remains friendly, like a room where everyone has gone to sleep peacefully. Your thoughts slow further, matching the pace of this long cosmic evening. Nothing presses forward. You feel safe knowing that even the universe knows how to rest. The idea of heat fading does not feel like cold emptiness. It feels like balance. A return to quiet. The cosmic tide does not abandon the universe here. It stays, patient and constant, even as everything else softens. You imagine this evening lasting longer than any story, longer than any memory, stretching on gently, endlessly. There is no final note. Only a sustained hush. You breathe deeper now. A deeper inhale than before. A longer, softer exhale. In. Out. The universe settles. You settle with it. Nothing is demanded. Nothing is urgent. And somewhere within this calm, as the long evening stretches on, a faint curiosity stirs, barely more than a whisper beneath the tide. Even in rest, the universe has surprised itself before. And so you float onward, suspended between what is quieted and what might still change, carried gently toward the next thought, the next breath, the next subtle possibility hidden beneath the calm surface of an endlessly patient night. You float onward, still supported by the same calm tide, still unafraid of where it leads. The long evening from before lingers around you, soft and dim, like embers glowing quietly after a fire has settled. Nothing urges you forward. Nothing pulls you back. Your breath remains slow and familiar. In. Out. In this quiet, another layer of awareness gently opens. The universe is calm, yes, but it is also attentive. It listens to itself. The cosmic tide continues its steady rise, yet beneath it, there may be other currents, faint and subtle, moving in ways that are not yet fully known. You do not imagine these currents as strong or disruptive. They are whispers, not waves. Suggestions, not commands. Science, in moments like this, is less about answers and more about listening carefully to what the universe might be hinting at. You imagine scientists as quiet listeners, sitting at the edge of the cosmic ocean, ears just below the surface. They are not shouting questions into the dark. They are waiting. Sometimes the universe responds clearly. Sometimes it murmurs. There are ideas that the cosmic tide might change over time, growing slightly softer, or slightly stronger, or behaving in ways too gentle to notice quickly. These possibilities are held carefully, like fragile shells gathered from deep water. None of them rush forward demanding belief. They simply rest in consideration. You find this comforting. Even the pursuit of understanding here feels calm. Uncertainty is not treated as a flaw. It is treated as space. The same space that stretches between galaxies now stretches between conclusions. Room to breathe. Room to wait. The cosmic tide does not seem offended by questions. It continues its motion whether it is understood or not. You feel reassured by this independence. The universe does not require your certainty to function. It allows you to rest while it continues. Your breath mirrors this perfectly. You do not need to think about breathing for it to happen. It simply does. In. Out. Some currents may flow beneath the tide, subtle variations that only long attention can reveal. Others may exist only briefly, like passing breezes across dark water. Science listens for all of them patiently. You imagine long nights of observation, not tense or urgent, but quiet and steady. Eyes adjusting to darkness. Minds open without strain. Listening takes time. And time, here, is abundant. The cosmic tide has taught you that not everything announces itself loudly. Some truths arrive so gently they feel like intuition before they feel like knowledge. This is not frustrating. It is tender. You feel how uncertainty can be held without anxiety. It can be cradled like a sleeping question, allowed to rest until it is ready to wake. The universe seems to prefer this approach. It reveals itself slowly, trusting patience more than speed. The darkness around you feels full of quiet potential, like deep water holding many directions at once. None of them urgent. You sense that even if the cosmic tide were to change someday, it would do so gently, giving everything time to adjust. No shocks. No sudden turns. The universe does not like surprises that hurt. You smile faintly at the thought that even mysteries here seem considerate. Your body remains relaxed, untouched by speculation. Your thoughts drift without attaching. The cosmic tide continues its steady lift, indifferent to debates, unaffected by uncertainty. And yet, curiosity remains alive within it. This balance feels important. Certainty is not required for peace. You inhale curiosity softly, without effort. You exhale expectation, letting it dissolve into the dark. In. Out. Science does not demand that every question be answered immediately. It allows questions to exist, to breathe, to mature. You feel how this mirrors rest itself. Sleep does not force resolution. It allows things to settle. The universe seems to sleep this way too, one eye gently open, listening even as it rests. The cosmic tide hums beneath everything, constant and calm, while faint possibilities drift quietly alongside it. You are not asked to choose between them. You are allowed to float among them. Uncertainty becomes a soft companion rather than an intruder. It sits beside you, silent and polite. You feel safe not knowing what comes next. Safe letting the universe take its time. The darkness feels warm again, like a deep, familiar night. Your breath deepens naturally. In. Out. And as you drift onward, still carried by the patient tide, a gentle realization settles in. No matter which currents exist, no matter how the universe chooses to continue, you are still here, still held, still breathing. The answers, when they come, will arrive softly. Just like everything else. For now, it is enough to listen. You drift gently from the quiet currents of uncertainty, moving inward now, toward your own familiar horizon. The cosmic tide continues beneath and around you, steady and unhurried. Nothing about it threatens your body, your warmth, your small, contained universe. Your breath remains slow. In. Out. You notice it, the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle motion of your lungs, the subtle expansion of your abdomen. Each breath is a tiny echo of the universe itself, a small reflection of the cosmic tide. Your heartbeat pulses softly beneath your ribs, steady and patient. It does not rush to keep pace with the galaxies. It does not strain to match the universe's expansion. Yet it participates, quietly, naturally, in its own gentle rhythm. You imagine your body as a small universe, complete and contained. Atoms orbiting, cells glowing faintly like distant stars, warmth spreading evenly across your skin. Nothing in the vastness outside can pull these atoms apart. Nothing in space threatens your internal harmony. You are whole. You are intact. The cosmic tide rises outside, slow and predictable. Inside, your own tides, breath, heartbeat, awareness move in harmony. They are not stretched thin by the expansion of space. They do not compete with it. You feel a comforting symmetry between the universe and yourself. Both expand gently. Both continue without urgency. Both are patient. Your body remains soft and warm, supported by the universe and by itself. Even as galaxies drift apart, even as space stretches endlessly, you remain grounded in your own calm gravity. You inhale slowly, noticing the rise of your chest. Exhale gently, letting your ribs soften. In. Out. The cosmic tide does not intrude here. It does not demand participation. It simply moves around and through everything. Your atoms remain unaffected by cosmic expansion. Your thoughts remain intact. Your warmth remains steady. You feel relief in this realization. Even the largest movements in the universe do not destabilize you. Even the grandest tides do not disrupt your small, private cosmos. The quiet lift of space mirrors the quiet lift within your own body. Your breath expands slightly, just as space expands gently. Your heartbeat pulses steadily, like a subtle echo of the universal rhythm. There is no danger in this reflection. Only calm. Only reassurance. You notice a soft smile forming, barely conscious. The universe and your own body are companions, separate yet similar. Both breathe. Both rest. Both continue. You rest in your own expansion, allowing awareness to settle gently over your chest and your limbs. You are not stretched. You are not compressed. You are exactly where you need to be. In. Out. This calm awareness brings another thought: if the universe can expand quietly, steadily, endlessly, then so can you. Your own awareness can stretch, slowly, without strain. Your own presence can grow gently, just as space itself does. You float within this symmetry, safe and whole. Your breath matches the cosmic rhythm, soft and unhurried. Your heartbeat remains a quiet drum beneath it all. The tide outside continues, patient and calm. The currents within you continue, steady and alive. You feel complete in this small universe, held both by the cosmic tide and by yourself. And as you drift deeper into rest, you sense that the calm you feel here is a preparation, a gentle bridge toward the final chapter, where observation, wonder, and sleep merge into one patient, enduring rhythm. You drift inward from your own small universe, leaving behind thoughts of galaxies and currents, questions and possibilities. The cosmic tide continues its gentle rise, beneath, around, and through you. You do not need to hold it. You do not need to control it. Your breath remains slow, steady, rhythmic. In. Out. The darkness around you is complete but not heavy. It feels like a soft, familiar ocean wrapping you in its embrace. The tide moves beneath the stars and between galaxies, continuing quietly, endlessly. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing rushes. Nothing interrupts the gentle hum of the universe. You feel the quiet expansion echo within your body. Each inhale mirrors space widening. Each exhale matches the universe settling. Your heartbeat becomes a soft drum in harmony with the cosmic rhythm. It does not compete. It does not strain. It simply is. Forever does not need to be loud. Forever does not need to insist. It simply flows, and you flow with it. The cosmic tide carries everything evenly, impartially, without urgency. Galaxies drift. Light stretches. Darkness deepens. And you rest. You do not need to understand how it all works. You do not need to solve mysteries or chase questions. You simply allow yourself to float within it. The silence is warm, not empty. It hums gently beneath awareness, soft as distant waves against a calm shore. Your breath deepens naturally. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. The universe does not require your observation to exist. It continues, patient and persistent. And you are a part of it, safely contained, quietly aligned. You feel the steady lift of the cosmic tide beneath you. It carries galaxies, starlight, and space itself. It carries you too. Without effort. Without expectation. You allow your mind to drift along with it, thoughts softening into gentle ripples. No urgency. No tension. You are supported by the vast, patient rhythm of existence. The tide continues. Unbroken. Calm. All questions may remain unanswered. All distances may stretch. All light may dim with time. And yet, you are held. In. Out. The forever tide does not rush. It does not demand. It does not grow impatient. You breathe with it, small and steady. You float within it, soft and warm. You rest. You allow. You drift. And as the universe continues, endlessly patient, you sink into the quiet knowing that nothing needs fixing, nothing needs chasing, nothing needs changing. Your breath slows further, a gentle companion to the cosmic rhythm. Your heartbeat remains steady. Your body is held, safe, complete. One final slow inhale. One final long, soft exhale. The universe expands. You rest. The tide continues quietly, endlessly, gently.